Should you be registering a business name or a company? That's a conversation we're going to have today. But before our guests from the Companies Office of Jamaica joins us, just to remind you that last week we had a conversation with representatives from the Municipal Corporation and the Ministry of Health about business license, the process involved in getting your business license for those who need to get a health certificate before you actually get to registering your business. I learned last week that there are some persons who believe that once they get that license from the municipal corporation through the health department, that means that their business is registered. So today we are going to bring the Companies Office into the discussion so you can understand the difference between getting your business license and getting your business registered and how you're going to go about doing that. And we're going to be answering a whole lot of other questions. So let me bring on Yolande Rowe Fender from the Companies Office of Jamaica, where companies are registered, or is it businesses are registered?
Oh, companies and the businesses are registered.
All right, because people just say we're starting a business, right? But there are some persons who want to go large and they want to register a company. But of course, there are differences between the two, the process involved and all of that. So we want to have that conversation today. Welcome, Yolande, to the Serenity Resource Connector.
Thank you for having me.
Really great to have you joining us so we can provide some, I call it virtual hand-holding for those who are looking to start a business. So we started 2 weeks ago by having a conversation with the Jamaica Business Development Corporation on what are the things that you need to consider before you get to starting a business. And we talked last week about some of the licenses that you need before you get to register in your business. So Yolande, who needs to register a business and why do I really need to register my business?
Well, first of all, you need to register so that you can be a legally operating entity. Who needs to register? Anyone that is offering a service in a name other than their given name. So if John Brown Plumbing Services, that needs to be registered because that is not the name of the person. If you're trading, you have to register. There is no if and but or maybe about that one. Once you're trading, you have to find a name and you have to register either a business or a company. There's no escaping it. So I know that people have been telling people that, oh, you can trade in your own name. Once you're operating from an established place of business, you have to find a name and register that name. You either register a business name or you register a company.
All right, let's break it down because some persons, when they hear trading, they think of the big conglomerates.
Oh, no.
So when you talk about trading, are you talking about the corner shop?
The corner shop?
Corner shop?
Yes, the corner shop. Once it's selling something, once you have something, a restaurant is selling food, and that's what you're doing when you have a restaurant. You're selling food. You have a bar, you're selling alcohol or other beverages. So the bar, the restaurant, the corner shop, the liquor haberdashery, the hardware store, once you are trading, meaning giving a good in exchange for money.
Oh, okay. Right. So I was asked to do a presentation some time ago, and I believe the heading was about promoting and registering a business. And I remember I told them that it's the other way around. It's you register and then you promote.
Right. Because you run the risk of you start promoting, doing your shirts, and then when you come to the Companies Office of Jamaica to register the name, that business that you have now earned goodwill on, you can't register the name because the name is either the same as another that is registered or it is too close. And once you're trying to register a name that is the same or it is too close to another name, that name is going to be refused. So the first step, you plan your business and then register it before you even start doing any promotional activities.
Right. Because I've had at least one client that went in investing in bottling and labeling and all of that, only to realize that the name was already taken. So all of those monies would have been wasted because now we had to do a new name, and now you have to re-establish yourself in the market because now you're going out with a completely different set of labels. So those are some of the pitfalls when you go in before you actually get to registering.
I remember a lady I think in Trelawney. She had been operating in 2012. We went on a mobile. She had been operating for 20 odd years before that. And when she came to register the business name, I had to tell her that, sorry, ma'am, that name can't be used. She was most distraught.
Yes, because of course everyone would know the business by that name already.
Right.
Now to start telling persons, oh, we're no longer going by that name, we're going by this name.
That. Not only that, in our society, we have a thing named bad mind. Somebody see that you're operating and you're getting business, and they come in and they check and they say, oh, that name not registered. So they would come in and then register it before you. So you have no standing.
Because we are virtual now. And there are a number, especially the younger people, who are promoting their business. And I see some really awesome logos and names out there. And only to realize that the name has not been registered. But once you put it out there and persons see that you're getting traction and all of that, they can just claim it and name it.
Yes.
And that's it. And there's nothing really that you can do, because you really ought not to be promoting before you register.
There's also a fine for that. There's a fine if you're trading and not registered. If you're advertising and not registered, there's a fine of $20,000. And people fail to realize, they may think that advertising is, putting up a billboard or having an ad on the TV or the radio. No, a simple business card or the branded shirts, or a little name and your little bottles and your caps and your mask. That's advertising.
Oh, yes. And when we have the conversation with the tax authority, they'll understand that you can actually recoup those costs. So that is why it's best to go that route where you register and make sure that you secure your name. And there are different stages along the journey. But the big question, I'm setting up this operation and I'm wondering, should I register a business name? What really is a business name? The difference between business name and a company.
Okay, so
that company sounds very.
Oh yes, it does. But it's a registration that is just an individual or partners. So it's a sole proprietorship or a partnership, persons trading as. So there is no protection when you do a business name registration. What it is just a name. You're just registering a name. Now, with the limited liability company, you have a company with the word limited attached to it. You have protection. So with a business name, there's no personal protection. So somebody decides to sue you, your assets, personal assets, are at risk with a business name. With a company, that is not so. Your assets are protected because it's limited to the liability, to the unpaid shares in the company. And also you have perpetual succession, meaning that when you die with a company, as a shareholder of a company, the company can go on without you. With a business name, that's it. When you pass away, the business goes away with you. And if it's a partnership, if it's two persons, the partnership will come to an end when one partner has died. So you are able to have, as I said, the protection all for the company. The assets of the company are not owned by any individual. It's owned by the company. So the vehicle that is in the company's name is not yours. It belongs to the company. And that's one of the things. And so the members, the shareholders, are not agents of the company. So even though you have shares in the company, you can't just get up and just go out and do business contract on behalf of the company. That has to be done by the directors or persons who are employed to the company. For a business name, any partner can go out and can do a contract for the company.
And then the risk, even though it's any partner, whatever risk that partner takes on, because it's a partnership, then there's equal exposure. Right. So in terms of the protection, but of course, all of that protection comes with some level of accountability and responsibility. Tell us in terms of the difference in terms of registering the business as opposed to
Okay, so with registering the business name is just a 10-page document that you would need to complete the document, find a suitable name, have your location already registered, know where you're going to be operating from. You submit the form with your ID, TRN, proof of home address. And if it's a business that you're operating that you need a license to operate, so like for the hairdressers, the barbers, persons who are doing pest control, attorneys, pharmacists, anything that you need a license to operate, you need to give us that license when you are registering the business. So you submit the license, you complete the document, and submit with your payment of $2,500 for a partnership or a sole proprietorship. Partnership up to 5 persons or a sole proprietorship, and for a partnership of 6 to 20, it would be $5,000. So we just submit the documents and you're good to go. And it can be done online, so you don't have to go into the Montego Bay office or the Kingston location. You can just do it from the beach, sitting on the beach, and you're sitting on the beach and you just go on your phone and you do your registration and you're good to go. For a company though, you'd need to submit the BRF, that's the super form, and the articles of incorporation. That has to be completed and submitted. All directors and shareholders must sign the articles of incorporation. The same thing for the sole proprietorship or partnership. The form must be signed by all proprietors or partners. And the form is duly completed and signed and filled out and submitted. For the company, the document should be accompanied by ID and the TRN for the principal director as well as a declarant. And the declarant is just the person who's completing the form and advising us that the information contained herein is correct. And the cost for incorporation is $24,500. And then you're going to want copies of the article. So you just add a little $1,500 extra to that. Now, if when you come into us, you decide that the service for a company takes 5 days, for a business name, it takes 3 days. Now, if somebody decides that, hey, that's too long, but we're here for you. You can do same day service for a business name. It's an additional $3,000. For a company, it's an additional $6,000. But you have to visit the office before 9 o'clock to get that service. Next day service is also available. $1,500 extra for a partnership or a super partnership, and $3,000 extra for a company. And you get it the following day.
Okay.
Yes.
That sounds very convenient.
Of course.
But in terms of a company though, because there are different kinds of companies for trading, and of course you have some that are set up for community organization.
Yes.
Regardless of the nature of the company that is established, what are the responsibilities of the secretary or director?
The secretary is required to ensure that documents are filed at the Companies Office of Jamaica. So the annual return is to be filed to the anniversary of incorporation or the anniversary of the last one, because not everybody used the anniversary date as their filing date. So the secretary is to ensure, and then also filed with other statutory bodies, and also ensure that records are kept. And the directors are to ensure that how the directors are responsible for the running of the company, and also to ensure that the secretary files the documents. And they're also required to file the annual return when it's due. If the address has changed for the company, to file that Form 17. If the secretary has changed, to file the Form 20. To file the Form 23 when directors are changed. So it's not just about starting a company and then just sitting down. No, we have responsibilities thereafter. Yes, because you have to ensure compliance. You don't want to know that you're going to the bank for a loan and they say, oh, you need to file your annual returns. Somebody called me yesterday inquiring about a company that is on the register and they want a letter of good standing for the company. When I checked, not one annual return has ever been filed for this company. So they owe us like 289,000. So in order to sell the property, and I'm guess they're selling the property to get some money. So in order to sell the property, they will have to pay the $200,000 to bring the company up to date. Some persons want to get a loan, they go to the bank, they need a letter of good standing, only to come and find out that they haven't been filing the returns. And then also when you file the returns, you have to ensure that they were approved, because sometimes errors can be made. So persons, once they file, it is their responsibility to ensure that the documents have been approved and not just file them and leave it.
Is there a response to say that your documents have been accepted and approved? What's the process like? How will they know?
Well, if your email address is on the document, and once the document has been approved, you get an email to say that document has been approved. If it's rejected, you also get an email to say that it's been rejected. The company's office will also call.
Okay.
Will also attempt to make a call to advise you that, hey, your document has been rejected. Sometimes, some people say calls coming in from numbers that they don't know. And so they don't answer it. And they don't return the call. So they never get that advisory. So it's always good. They can always check with the company's office to see if the document has been approved. And the documents are usually approved within 5 working days.
And that goes down to our customer service etiquette across the board, because if it is that we're operating a business and we're giving out our number, if it is that we're not able to respond at the same time, it's always best to return the call so you can find out, because you're operating a business and you can be missing out on big opportunities.
Well, some persons, they don't answer numbers that they don't know, and I don't understand. You're operating a business. Sometimes you just give somebody, just fill out a form in front of you, put a number on it, they turn and leave, and by the time you're calling them, you're not getting any response.
And I find that is similar with a number of the agencies that have been on so far. I remember Hart mentioning that as well. But that's something that we have to be mindful of, especially our younger people. Please bear this in mind, because this is how you miss opportunities.
Yes.
Because if you're answering the call, or if you change your number for whatever reason, you must update the relevant organization that you're doing business with, because that's the only way they can actually follow through on what it is that you have engaged them on. Right? So that's something that we have to be mindful of. Of course, there's a legal age to do business.
Right.
What's the legal
18. Age? 18. So while 18, if you're younger than 18, you can be a director or a shareholder in a company. I think if you're below 12, then a parent would have to sign on your behalf, and then they would have to provide a birth certificate, because ordinary no relation cannot come and sign to say that they're signing on behalf of. So if you're going to be signing on behalf of, that person would have to be your child. Now for a business name, totally 18 years. So you can't register until you're 18.
Which is understandable, because it's the individual that is doing business as.
Right. So all liability rests with the proprietor, with the business owner.
Yes.
And they're not at an age to contract.
That's right. Because we know we have 10-year-old, 9-year-olds who are starting businesses now.
Right.
So for them to get that formalized, they'd have to set up a company, because a company is a separate legal entity.
That is correct.
Right. So they're basically building their legacy. They just need to get proper guidance so that they can have the right directors to take care of the day-to-day and make sure that all those returns are filed, so they don't rack up those penalties, and that they can continue doing business smoothly.
Right. I spoke about the liability of the director, but the business proprietor also has a liability. the certificate that you get once you're registered
Yes.
expires in 3 years. So you're required to come in and renew once the business is still operational. Come in and renew. You can do it 14 days before the certificate expires or anytime thereafter. And if the business is not in operation, you're required to close. If you have made any changes, if you have changed your address for the business, address of your home address, the nature of the business, any changes that have been made, they should also be recorded with the Companies Office, and the requisite change fee of $2,500 paid if your change is done. And for the closure, $600 would be paid for the closure of the business name. And
because it's
to
much
be brought
easier
up
to
to
close a business than a company.
Right. Because a company, you'd have to bring the company up to date, get this a letter requesting removal, a letter from a chartered accountant stating that the company has no assets or liabilities.
But once that company is removed, if it is that they wish to reuse that name, how long will they have to wait to reuse?
Well, the name is protected for 20 years. So once a company is removed,
Yes.
unless you're going to restore it, that name is gone. For a business name, once the business is closed, it's available for use.
By anyone.
By anyone.
Because the protection is removed. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But for the company, the name is protected for 20 years because you can restore the company within 20 years. After 20 years, you can't restore it.
It relates to the nature of the business. What I've seen is situation where the individual comes in, register the business, indicate a nature, but that nature does not capture all that the business is supposed to be doing. How do we guide persons as it relates to that?
They can come in and do a change, a nature change for the business. But the business, if it see where it's at, I mean, sometimes the forms cannot facilitate all the nature that they want, because sometimes some people just need to do a company. I've seen where, sometimes just a company that they need to do that can cover everything
all
that
the
they
areas
want to do. Right. And for some, they can also do a branch, register a branch, because sometimes it's a totally different thing that they're doing. And then sometimes some people would register one business and they want to do something else and they just come and add it on, when really and truly it would have been better if they had registered a branch of that business. And also when you register, if you're incorporate a company, you can have many different locations without coming in to us to do anything else. But for a business name, you're registered for a particular location.
Right.
So once you start to establish another location, you have to come in and register that location also. So if you're operating a restaurant in Maypen and you want to open another one in Lionel Town, and do a branch registration for the other location that you have. And a branch doesn't have to be the same thing, doesn't have to be doing the same thing, doesn't have to have the same name, doesn't have to be at the same location. What you have in common, the commonality, is you, the business owner.
So I can have, because it's me, the individual, so doing business as Serenity Consulting Services and providing services of that nature on this side. So I can just register a branch. So that branch would have a unique name in terms of, instead of Serenity Advisor Consulting, I can use Serenity Resource Connector as a branch.
Right. Or if you want to do Serenity Landscaping or Serenity Outsourcing.
Something totally different from...
Right. Serenity Outsourcing, you want to do a call center. You have many options.
All right. And it's the same $2,500 to register the branch?
Right. Says that it's a change. So whether you're doing a branch, you're changing your name, you're changing the nature. And once you've done a business name registered, you can change the name, the nature, and the address. But if you're changing all three, it's a totally different business. So you'd have to close that one and do a new registration. But you are free to make changes. So you can move from the address 10 times. You can add many natures. You can, yes, change your name, but once you're changing, you can add branches, change the name, change the nature, change your name, get married, divorce, married, change, yes.
We're not
Whatever
recommending
changes.
that.
Not at all, but things happen.
All right. So, as it relates to the change, the important that we must reiterate once you change your address, telephone number, your name, anything of that nature, it's important that you update all your records. So, if it is that you operate in a business, you need to contact the company's office to do the changes, contact your bank, everywhere else that you need to. That's something that we have to develop a system. Once we do changes of that nature, you have your checklist. You need to update your bank account to make sure that the information on the bank account is up to date, because you don't want when emergency comes and you go to the bank and there's a rush and you cannot get access to your funds because you did not do the update at the time. The same thing for insurance and everything. You have to make sure that you develop a system where you get all of that done. So we covered in the business name as opposed to a company, and we learned that if they taught this in any of my studies before, I totally missed it in terms of what we call a minor. Actually being a director on a company, that is great information to know. So parents, guardians, I had this question as recent as last week for those minors who wants to start a business. So there's no restriction to starting a business except that it will be registered as a company, and that's how your child, your guard can start building their legacy. Just ensure that you provide them with the right guidance. And some of these things require legal advice to get you on the right footing. So be mindful of that. So there are some things that I can advise you on business wise, but there's some other areas that's definitely legal advice. Or your background just changed to fancy color just now.
No, the sensor lights.
Okay.
And so I have not moved for a while, and so
okay, it was a nice little mix to the flow. You mentioned earlier in terms of the renewal, the 3 years. Is there any notification that's currently sent, or we just have to set that reminder to remember?
You have the certificate. The certificate is there.
We're not checking the certificate all the time, Yolande. And it's 3 years.
Yes, so we try, but with 100 and odd businesses on the register, it's difficult. We try, but we don't always get to everybody.
It seemed that the Companies Office need to take advantage of the digitization facility that's ongoing now, so we can help to serve our populace.
It's free? Digitization is free?
Yes, but I don't think the Companies Office can benefit from it. So we are going to have to look at some other facility to ensure that I'm sure it can be done, because we're seeing it happening in so many other government entities, and we want to make it easier. We have come a far way in terms of business registration, company registration, but of course we still want to see more being done.
Because now you can register online. 10 years ago, you couldn't do that.
Yes. Except I have a challenge with not being able to renew online.
We're working on it.
All right. I hope that will be pretty soon. So as we talk about the renewal.
It's in the pipeline.
Oh, Lord, that pipeline. I don't love to hear about the pipeline at all. And I'm sure the viewers don't like that part at all. We love specific timelines. But the renewal process, in terms of the renewal process, let us know what exactly is required for renewal.
Okay, as I said, 2 weeks, 14 days before the certificate expires, you can renew it. For a partnership, it's a BN2. For a sole proprietorship, it's a BN1. And for a company that has registered a business name, it's a BN3. Because companies can't register businesses. They can also register trading as.
Okay, so a lot of different options there. It's just how you use them, and in terms of the reporting and the records aspect of it. So all this conversation we're having here, we're going to have the conversation from the tax administration side come next week. so we can see the transition, because after you register with the Companies Office, it doesn't just stop there. There are other things similar to when you get your business license. That's not the end of it. You need to register your business name or your company if you're going to be doing business in a name other than
your given name.
You mentioned earlier in terms of other than their name, Yolande. You have to remember that there's some
Right.
Right. So it's not your alias. If you're using your alias, that's another name other than that on your birth
It's your given
certificate.
name. It's a name on your birth certificate.
So we have to establish that. And for the company, there's an annual return that is required for you to remain compliant. So we went through what to do in terms of the changes, some of the changes that can be made, what can be done. And there's no limitation as to the different businesses that you can start, but you can always register a new branch, and they just have to understand that whatever you do on the Companies Office side, you have to duplicate or replicate on the tax side. And we're going to have that conversation so you see the transition as to what exactly to do, so that you're not compliant with the Companies Office but not with the tax office.
Right. Yes. Some persons file the tax, so they're up to date with the tax office, and then when you go to our field officers go to them and say to them that, hey, you have not been filing your annual return. Yeah, but yes, I've been filing my annual return. They are confusing because all the entities they have an annual return in some form or other. So we just have to remember that Companies Office is not the tax office, and you have different annual returns to file.
Which is one of the reasons that we're having the Serenity Resource Connector, so persons can be guided as to which entity does what. Because I've noticed that over the years that there are some persons who register with the Companies Office, do not establish a relationship with the tax office, and the opposite is true in terms of the reporting and the compliance side of things. So we want to make sure that they get that right. So we're talking about business and the trading, the community-based organizations. We want to have that conversation as well.
Okay, so for incorporation, they'd be using the same BRF form, but they'd be using the Articles of Incorporation, the Form 1B. The company limited by shares, which is a regular company, uses a Form 1A. The company limited by guarantee uses a Form 1B. And for the same thing, directors and members would subscribe. The members would have to also sign the form, submit the ID for the principal director and the declarant. And just the same as the company has the same obligations to file the annual return, the company limited by guarantee without a share capital also has an obligation to file an annual return, but they also have a further obligation to file an income and expenditure statement. So, to see how the donations are being and the money earned are being spent. So just that little extra that we also need to know. But it doesn't have to be detailed. Sometimes you get some people put in every cent. We just want to know the income and the expenditure. I mean, it doesn't have to be audited. So for the non-profit entity, it doesn't have to be audited at all. Just have a statement of your income and your expenditure for the period. So it's for each 1 year period.
And that's for the Companies Office.
For the company,
because
for the
there's
company's
another
office,
entity that we're going to have conversations with later, because it's not just the Companies Office and when we talk about community-based organizations, we're talking about your clubs, the Chamber of Commerce,
Citizens Association,
name some others.
Churches, foundations, history, Citizens Parent Teachers Association, other bodies, CDC, they call them Community Development Committee, and the cost for incorporation would be the same as a regular company because it is a company, so the obligations are the same.
So for those who are looking to set up foundations and organizations of that nature, there you have it.
And it can also be done online. That incorporation can also be done online. They would just need to do, if you're going to do the transaction online, the first step is to do a name reservation. You have to reserve the name first, and once the name has been approved, then you just move right into registering whether the business name or the company.
I have a question here before we continue. Is the annual return only for the company, or is it also for sole traders?
Only for companies. The sole trader just needs to renew every 3 years. That's it.
Thank you for that question, Romeo. I also have viewers from the diaspora. What about those who are looking to establish companies here? What's required? How can they get that done?
The same requirement, but they're in the best ever opportunity now that they can do it online. They don't need to get anybody to do it for them or to leave the country. They can simply do the same registration incorporation online. But for a business name registration, if you're not a Jamaican, you're not a member of your country is not a member of CARICOM, then you need a work permit for a business name, sole proprietorship. Once you're not a Jamaican or you're not a member of CARICOM, you need a work permit to register a business name, but there is no limit for the incorporation. It's just required that at least one director must have a TRN.
Just one director.
Sorry, any officer. So whether director or secretary must have a TRN. So it doesn't have to be the director, it can also be the secretary.
Right. And with the online option, it can be signed online, so they can just do that online without any back and forth. However, a question earlier this week as it relates to an entity that's established in the United States or Canada, and they want to register an office or branch here in Jamaica.
That can be facilitated. So they decide whether they're going to register a branch or they want to register a local entity, because some persons just register a local entity with the same name here. But the option is register the local entity or they register a branch of the overseas company using the Form 31. Now, what we would need for them to complete the Form 31 and submit the documents that they got at incorporation certified by the body that registered or incorporated the entity. So different things for different jurisdictions, different places. I think like in the UK is Companies Office. In the US, it may be the Secretary of State. So whichever body that did the incorporation, that is the body that we need the certified copies from. And they submit that along with the Form 31 and pay your $25,000 and you're good to go. So and they can also have to have an agent here. So they have to name an agent here who will be doing business on their behalf and receiving service for them.
There you have it. So you're in the diaspora, you can still conduct your business here in Jamaica, because we want to build Jamaica, grow Jamaica, so that we can make Jamaica a better place for all of us, right? There are lots of opportunities here, irrespective of all that's happening, a lot of opportunities. We just need to understand how the system works, and things are getting much easier in terms of doing business.
And the use of the super farm, because with the super farm, you get a TRN when you're doing a new incorporation. You get a TRN, you register with NIS, NHT, and with the new company, you get your letter A, your TCC for a new company.
For what 6 months?
3 months. I think it's 3 months. 3 months. Yeah, the first one that you get from us is 3 months. Thereafter, you have to go to, yes. 3 months.
That's for the company.
For the business name, no TCC, because but you still registered. You get a TRN, registered with the NIS, NHT, just the same.
All right. Companies Office probably need to look into the TCC for business name as well, because there are some banks that require TCC to open an account.
But that's a different thing, because the TCC is with the company. Remember that they can't owe any taxes because they're a new entity. The TCC,
the individual,
individual, right. A new entity just started. Can't do anything yet.
Gotcha. Right. So yes, that's one of the big things, because before then you would have to register your company, then make your way to the NIS office, to NHT, all over before you get to the tax office with all of those documents to get your TCC, because you'd have to get the NIS for the company, your NHT number for the company, and all of that before you make your way there. So with this super form, you get all of that. Just to let you know, though, for the business name, remember, you're the individual that's registering the business. doing business as, so it's your TRN. But for a
It's just a
company,
branch, right?
right, the company is as a unique tax registration number and
Partnerships also.
partnership,
And partnerships, right?
right,
Companies and partnerships, right?
because of the multiple
Proprietors,
partners, right? And it's for ease of monitoring. Because
right?
when you get to the tax registration numbers, the name suggests is for the tax relationship. So all of those nice numbers that you see on your certificate when you get it from the company's office, it means
Mm-hmm.
that you have established relationship with all of those entities, which means that
Mm-hmm.
you have a responsibility to remain compliant with all of those entities. So we need to understand what that
That's correct.
compliance process really means, what you need to do, when, how, and how much.
Yes, and when it's required for, and what you need to do for each at each step of the way for each one of those entities, because it doesn't look the same.
That's right. And that
Compliance
is
with the company's office doesn't look the same as compliance with any other entities.
not at all. And that is why we are having this virtual hand holding. So the next stop will be with the Tax Administration Department and the NHD to guide you as to what to do after you have registered your business name or your company to ensure that your their system is a little more digitized so you get those fancy
You, you,
setups
you
and
you
all of
don't
that.
have to buff us like that,
No,
Winsome.
I'm not. I'm just encouraging you, gently
Remember that
encouraging you.
you remember that we're an executive agency, and so anything that we do is coming out of our pockets. So
All
it
right.
take a little longer for
Right.
the shorter pockets than the longer pockets.
Yes. Yes, but the nature of business is that if you simplify the process, you get more
Yeah,
people.
yeah, we know that. We
Yes, which is why we are seeking to support you with the Serenity Resource Connector to ensure
mm-hmm.
that more persons understand the process. Because a lot of what is happening is because people really do not understand the process. It's not that some don't want to be compliant, they just don't know.
Know how,
And
right?
so we are guiding them in terms of knowing so that they're able to fulfill their obligations, so that the process can move up a bit faster, so that we can enjoy some of the convenience of doing the online, right?
And we're
Especially for
grateful for the
those in the
assistance.
diaspora.
We're grateful for the assistance.
It's always a pleasure, always a pleasure. Are there any more questions? We are coming to the end of this episode. We have gone through a lot. So if you joined us late, remember you can always do the recap on YouTube, or you can Google Serenity Resource Connector. All the episodes are there. So you can see the different episodes and choose which one you want to watch. And you can pause and you can go back and check to see whatever you have missed. We talked about the legal age for registering a business, and that even those below the age of 18 can get into business, just not as a business name, but as a company, and what the process entails, what is required to register your business or your company, the responsibilities of your secretary, your directors, your shareholders, what to do if you change anything relating to your business, the nature of your business name, and the different branches that you can set up, because there's this term being branded about multiple. So you're doing advisory in this setting, you're doing healthcare in one avenue. There are different ways where you can protect your business and continue to build and remain compliant to the process for filing, and that the relationship with the company's office is separate from your relationship with the other entities. And we'll be bringing those entities in the upcoming week so you can see and understand the process as to how to get compliant, remain compliant, so that you can protect your business, your investment, and build your legacy. And in the end, build brand Jamaica. It's been a pleasure serving you on this episode of the Serenity Resource Connector. Thank you so much for joining. For those who are watching this rebroadcast, thank you for tuning into the Serenity Resource Connector, where we continue our public education to empower our Jamaicans locally and and in the diaspora. Thank you again. I'm Winsome, and we had Yolande Rowe Fender joining us today from the Companies Office of Jamaica. Thank you so much, Yolande, to you and your team for accepting the invitation.
Thank you very much for having me, Winsome, and you have an awesome day now.
You likewise. Contact us through any of our channels for business registration and compliance support. Ask about any of our other services. Visit our website at www.serenityresourceconnector.com and subscribe to receive our weekly blog post. Join us again on Thursday at 8 p.m. for Culture Corner with the JCDC. Thank you for watching.